1. For some context, I serve at a middle-of-the-line sushi restaurant with expensive food that is pretty average tasting. I've only been serving for 3 months or so, and lately I feel super overwhelmed with the amount of work I'm doing, especially since a lot of our servers have quit. We have one host, one server, and a manager for our lunch shift, and usually the manager ends up serving. Several times I've worked on a random Tuesday when we have a full house for some reason, and my manager and I split the house evenly. Keep in mind, almost every single person orders a roll or a bento box with appetizers and bar drinks that we make ourselves. I also bus my own tables. During today's shift, the restaurant filled up fast, and by the time 12:30 rolled around, I had between 7 and 9 tables at once. I couldn't even count because I was so busy. My manager had the same amount of people, only he helped out more with the larger parties, and I had mostly tables of 4 or less, with only a few 5+ tables. I was probably serving 25 or 30 people at any given time. I know we're understaffed and that the business makes money off having less servers scheduled, and my manager has made no efforts to replace the servers we've lost, so things don't look like they're going to improve anytime soon. I don't know if I'm just inexperienced, so that's why I'm overwhelmed. But every time I finish work, I feel so emotionally and physically drained. So far, the shifts haven't gotten any easier, and I'm not given real breaks, even though my shifts will often run longer than 6 hours. Even my manager said it felt like this place was sucking the life out of him slowly. So now you might be thinking, well, if you had a lot of tables then at least the tips were good. Nope, we made about $300 in tips during that shift. But I don't get to keep my share because all of our money goes into a tip pool that is shared with the front and back of the house, including the kitchen. I also believe the head chef and manager get to keep tips. At the end of the week, we get our tips, and for 30 hours of work, I get $200 for the entire week. Another week, I get $160 in tips for 20 hours. So not only do I feel constantly overwhelmed and overworked, but I don't even get the proper tip money in exchange for selling my soul to this place. Is this normal for a serving job? Does it get easier the longer you do it? I'm honestly just so depressed with this job. I have never participated in any endeavor that has left me this beaten up at the end of my days. 2. For context, I work at a small family-owned restaurant where both owners are every day. There are only 6 servers the entire restaurant has, and I have been working here for almost 2 years. I am now head server. One day I had 3 servers scheduled. One called out due to missing her flight to come back in town. She tried to find coverage from the other 3 servers who weren't on the schedule, in which they declined or didn't respond. I come in for my shift knowing she won't be there, and we have about 60 heads on the books, but it's spread out and something I can't handle. I say hello to the chef when I come in, and it seems that he is upset that nobody could come in to cover for her. But it seems as if he's mad at me. The host we currently have doesn't listen, and they were waiting to fire her until after the holidays. At first it's okay, then she begins seating endlessly without asking me if we need a wait. I'm drowning. I have a 10 top, a 6 top, the bar, and like 3 other tables. I had someone waiting in the bar for me to take their to-go, but I couldn't because I was being seated constantly. The other server had a contracted party, so she was consumed with that. I take the order for my 10 top, and then my chef comes over in a super rude tone, asking why there aren't drinks on the tables. Check, we make our own drinks. I tell him I will check myself because I'm headed to the computer anyways, and we only have 2 computers. He yells at me on the floor, saying that is not what he asked me. I'm already super overwhelmed with a million things in my head. He says I have to be kidding him and goes back into the kitchen. Later that night, I ask my coworker why he's in such a horrible mood. She says probably getting a bad review that was just posted, saying I'm amazing and he's horrible. Basically, they said they saw him mistreating us and that he needs to apologize to his staff. The person then posted a private message interaction between the both of them from Yelp, where he said he was glad that they loved me and she ignored my orders to call somebody in and ignored orders to be put on wait, both of which I did not do. The next day I come in and it's weird vibes. I start making the schedule for the following week. The other owner is watching me as I make the schedule and asks me what I'm doing. I tell her I'm writing the schedule and she asks me, "You sure you're not writing a review?" Implying I wrote the review that was left. Keep in mind it was written while I was in the depths of the weeds, so it wouldn't even be possible. As the chef and owner is walking by me, making it in the dining room, he stops what he's doing to yell at me and tell me I will not be making the schedule, and that he will be taking over the scheduling and now become the GM and front of house manager to help us, and it'll be out tomorrow. I then head over to tell the others about this. He hears me and comes over and yells at me and starts to say he asked I put the schedule out earlier. It's right before Christmas, so I don't want to quit, and right before rent is due. He comes out with the schedule and ignored my availability. He wrote the server who missed her flight and called out off the schedule. I went on Indeed and saw an ad for hiring 2 servers at my restaurant. The both of the owners have completely stopped talking to me. I feel as if I'm going to be fired. Should I quit or wait to be fired? 3. For context, I had fairly recently started working as a server. Wasn't fully familiar with our menu, and this was my first time dealing with an insane customer. Luckily, I have thick skin and it didn't get to me, but it was crazy to experience how wacky some people can get. I was working the 11 to 5 shift. The 10 to 3 server had just left, and the 3 whenever server hadn't arrived yet. So it was just me in the front and the 2 cooks, one of which was the GM in the back. The restaurant was empty after the lunch rush when the phone rang. I answered with the canned, "Thanks for calling, and what can I do for you?" And the lady immediately cut me off with her order. I needed to know if it was a to-go order before I could enter the food items in our system. As I started to ask if it would be dine-in or take-out, she cut me off again and said, "We'll be there in 5 minutes, just have it ready," and promptly hung up. Great. Whatever she ordered wasn't going to be ready in 5 minutes. Let me put it in anyways. Oh great, nothing she ordered was on the menu. Oh well, she'll be here in 5 minutes, we can sort it out, I'm sure. Sure enough, 5 minutes later in she struts with her sheepish boyfriend in tow. She plops down in a booth and kicks off her shoes and kicks her bare feet up. I walk over with a smile and 2 menus, and she yells that she doesn't need a menu, she just ordered on the phone. I let her know that we don't actually offer burritos, we're a burger place. "Well, what the fuck do y'all offer?" I try to hand her a menu, which she again rejects. "Do y'all have tacos?" "No, but we do have a barbecue chicken quesadilla." "Fine." Sheepish boyfriend had taken a menu and ordered a Caesar chicken salad. I go to the back and start making the salad, and I can hear her on the phone loudly complaining about me and calling me vile things. Their food comes out, she takes 1 bite, spits it out and screams, "Why is there fucking barbecue on this?" By now the GM was aware of what was going on, so he went out to handle it. He comes back into the kitchen with the quesadilla to make a new one without barbecue. Seconds later, the lady bursts into the kitchen and says, "Actually, I don't even want it anymore." She then turns to me and goes on a rant about how she was a server once and gave me some advice about how to do my job. I just looked at her with a sweet smile and thanked her for the advice. She stormed out of the restaurant. Sheepish boyfriend stayed to finish his salad, came up to the register to pay and said, "I'm very sorry," and left a great tip. Though it would go without saying that we would require guests to wear shoes, She did put them back on. Yeah, it seemed unreal to me, but work as a server for a week and you'll realize some people just act like that. 4. I used to work at a private restaurant. I loved every second of it and carry what I learned with me in terms of work ethic, multitasking, and the importance of keeping face in customer service through every job I've had since. Part of the reason it was such a great gig for over 2 years was because the two owners were hilarious and, for the most part, respectful to all their workers, but were quick to strictly enforce their rules and stand up to shitty customers. Overall, they were really great guys, but arguably a little rough around the edges. Cue the worst interaction with this guy. A week before this interaction, I was in an accident and had a large cut in my arm. I try not to talk about my personal business at work, and this injury, combined with some crazy, insane issues with my roommate's girlfriend, caused my normal, chipper demeanor to be changed. Co-workers started to speculate what was going on, and I can only assume rumors were floating around. I went to the office to cash out with management at the end of the shift, and caught the owners done cooking for the day, and they were shooting whiskey. They were a bit drunk and started joking around. In retrospect, maybe trying to cheer me up, but I had a short fuse, and the joke landed wrong because of the chaos of my life. I say something a little mean in response to the joke, and the owner looks at me and says, "Oh yeah? Well, next time you try to kill yourself, make sure you finish the job." Everything stopped. I stood there with my mouth open, fuming. I kept staring and said quite plainly, "Wow, I'm starting to see why your wife left you." I quickly finished cashing out and got the hell out of there. The next day, when the owner wasn't there, I pulled our main manager aside and said, "I can handle a lot, but that was way too far. I didn't try to kill myself, but dude, what if I did?" We had a long discussion, and he asked me what I wanted to do about it. I told him that I don't need to kiss and make up, per se, but I just wanted to be sure that my sentiments about the situation were explained to him. The owner never apologized, but I could tell by the way he was overly nice to me and never joked with me again that he realized he was wrong. 5. Hey everybody, I want to talk about employee meals. I saw a post yesterday where one of us was complaining about an employee ticket, a front-of-house employee ticket, being rung in during a rush, or rather it was simply implied that it is unacceptable, and the back of house is justified in being angry about it. I'm a bit triggered, and I want to talk about it and offer my perspective. Why? Because I once became angry at a poorly timed employee ticket as well. I don't like being angry at my job. My staff doesn't like it either. I don't get angry about this anymore, and I don't think you should either. I've been in kitchens and restaurants a long time now. Started as a dishwasher, moved up to line cook, eventually supervisor, then on to management, chef work, and I've acted as an operator and GM for a number of years. I'm currently doing chef work in California, and I'm responsible for a large portion of front-of-house operations. When I started in kitchens as a dishy, I had a very specific memory of my kitchen manager asking me to take my break and order food if I wanted. It was probably 8 p.m., so that's what I did. I found a server and I ordered a black bean burger with fries. I kept working while my ticket was in, working right alongside this 8-man brigade in the dish tank. I remember a good amount of time going by and thinking to myself, the food was taking a bit long. Oh well, the boys look busy, I won't bother them. Right? Eventually, the server who put my order in came to me all sheepishly and was like, "Oh hey, your food is ready. I'll grab it for you. Sorry they, the cooks, didn't tell you." "Oh, well, that's weird. Guys, I'm right here. Why didn't you tell me this was ready?" "Oh, well, I want to fit in, I won't make it an issue." I got my food, went to the basement to eat, ate, and got back to work. Anyways, the entire kitchen proceeded to cold shoulder me, the new 18-year-old kid in the tank, for the rest of the night. At close, I had finally finished up the dishes and was giving the tank a final wipe down before I started mopping. As soon as I wiped down the tank, the sauté guy brought back a steel sauté pan, ripping hot, completely covered in Parmesan cheese that was black, completely burnt to a crisp. He waited until I'd cleared my tank, grabbed a big old handful of cheese, tossed it in that pan and burnt it, on purpose, because fuck me, right? My kitchen supervisor saw me cleaning that pan and asked about it. I told him what it was, and he just said, "Well, you probably shouldn't order food during service, man." And that is how I learned about the whole meal and ticketing etiquette. Great, thanks boys, welcome to the damn team. From then on, I just learned how to make my own food. Never again. I was a hungry, poor college kid who just wanted to eat his shift meal. I didn't know. This was like 15 years ago, and I still feel shitty about it. I worked my way up to supervisor at that job before I left. I made damn sure no one ever felt the same way I did that night. Shame for ordering food at a fucking restaurant that I worked at. I made sure everyone from then on who came in under me got to eat, that I cooked for them, and that I showed them some compassion. From then on, when I knew a dish was going to break, I made sure I asked them, "Hey man, you want me to make you some food? What do you want?" "Okay, I'll have the front of house ring that in for you. Give me 10 minutes, no matter how busy I was." I moved on from this job to take on a better line cook position and eventually became chef, kitchen manager, GM, and operator of that next place. It was a big operation with about 75 employees at its peak. My first setup there was to the chef role. I was too young and inexperienced for the job, but it was a great opportunity, so I went for it. At this point, my feelings changed on staff meals. I was in over my head and employee tickets drove me nuts. I couldn't handle my workload and responsibility at the time, and having to cook for people while I was busy made me so angry. I was in charge, so I came up with all these stupid rules about when you could order food, how you needed to do it, that you needed to ask the kitchen, whatever. I would get so mad about people ordering food, which is so hypocritical of me looking back at my last experience, but I justified my feelings somehow. I would belittle and shame people for trying to order food because how fucking dare they while I've got stuff to do and paying customers are waiting to eat. Eventually, the front of house fell apart. I had been hitting great numbers in the back of house, the restaurant was doing really well in my end, so I convinced the owner to make me the GM and let me run things from the back. I reached out to my community and found 2 amazing front of house people that were going to run things under my leadership. The 3 of us worked together to fix service, manage flow, find good people, and we turned the restaurant around. This is when my feelings on meals really started to change. I had earned my respect back running a good, consistent program, and the front of house people had earned my respect. I had a lot of respect for those 2 front of house managers. We did awesome work together, and they taught me a lot. We also got along really well too. And that is important here. Anyways, this restaurant was in a college town, and our rushes were long, really long, think 6 to 8 hours. We also always had new, young people working for us, because much of the staff would leave every summer or graduate and move on. One day on a Sunday brunch rush, one of my hosts is needing to take a break. They had been getting slammed since 7 a.m. They wanted to order food, asked me in the kitchen if we would cook for them. And we said no. Of course, why would we cook for you right now? I've got a rail full of customer tickets. We were also dicks about it because, well, that was the vibe. At that point, my service manager stepped in and swore at me, the one and only time they have ever sworn at me, and said something like, "What the fuck is she supposed to do, chef? She's been literally running for your restaurant for 5 hours now, and there's 10 minutes to get some food in her before we need her back on the floor. She needs to eat. Now." Whoa, alright, heard. I took a few minutes to make this nice young host some food. She ate, and we moved on. It took a few minutes. Not 5 minutes, a few, 2 or 3 to cook for this person, and I was such a dick about it. Insert regrets here. I remember debriefing after that shift with my front of house team. We almost never got mad at each other like that in front of the crew, so we needed to talk about it. We talked, and the front-of-house manager set me straight. That host was gassed, starving, and doing amazing work for us. I was wrong the way I handled her meal. She needed to eat because I was working her hard to run that service. The fact that this is at a restaurant makes it that much easier and sensible just to feed her then and there and be kind about it. Think of how stupid it sounds to make people pack a lunch to work at a restaurant. Or even worse, go to a different restaurant during service. Further, these meals, it is part of each employee's compensation package. I literally have a meal benefits section on my employee handbook. For me to arbitrarily deny these benefits is wrong. From this moment on, I decided I needed to get back to my old way, set my ego aside, and be a good boss. I started getting ahead of the meals with people again. Going to them for their meals versus letting them come to me. All right, guys, we're about to get really busy. Who needs to eat? Or, hey, everyone, we've been really busy. Y'all good? Anyone need some food? And also clamping down on the other line cooks being grumpy about employee food. Hey man, this is part of their pay. Please treat their meal like a customer's because it's no different in my eyes. They are paying for it too. I owe them this meal. It is better this way. People like you. It mends wounds between front of house and back of house. It is fair and just. Dining, eating, meals, they aren't a privilege like so many of us like to believe. They are a benefit. A form of payment, compensation. You earn it by working in a restaurant. When you shame someone for ordering food at a bad time, you are denying them what they have already earned by working with you in that restaurant. No one should feel bad for wanting to eat at that restaurant they work at. On the flip side, cooking for someone, feeding them, is so intimate, and doing so is a show of compassion and empathy. Embrace it. I did a buyout last night for some tech company's holiday party. Kitchen was closed for service, and we were on a catering and banquet menu. Huge party, kitchen was stressed, we obviously were not taking orders. Near the end of the night, right before the last wave of catering went out, I had my Sue fire up a couple pizzas for the staff, while I made a salad and some veg. I didn't have to do this, it was well understood the kitchen was closed. We were all gassed after a long day, and I had a lot of work left to do, but you know what? Seeing the joy and admiration on my front-of-house crew when I told them, hey, I've got family meal for you guys in the back, is worth it. In summation, I think we'll all be a lot happier if we embrace the employee meals. It really isn't much to ask, no matter the situation. And real quick, for those that want to complain about a front-of-house staff member being a jerk, so fuck their food, I say to you this: take the high road. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 196. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, I've been recording these videos out of order. This one, although it's not the last one you'll hear, it's the last one I'm recording for the week. I managed to get all my recording done by Tuesday this week. It was a lot of work, but I got it done. So that means I'll spend the rest of the night making videos, hopefully while chatting to my lovely partner Linux, and also then sleeping late tomorrow. But I can then relax until next Monday. So that's me off. That's my Christmas break. I get a couple of extra days to wiggle my toes. Though I will have to go shopping for food tomorrow for my Christmas dinner. So, not going to do a question of the day today. I'm just going to wiggle my toes and just hope you all have a very nice holiday tomorrow. This goes up on Saturday, so Christmas is tomorrow. So make sure you hug your loved ones. And if you happen to be on your own, I will be doing a stream tonight and tomorrow, if all goes well. And if you need the company, join me for a few hours. We'll hang out and play games. Okay, with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.